Hey everyone, Guess is back. It's Kamish back here with our season preview and looking forward to showing you guys what I think might happen for the year. And I'm just going to hop right into it and we'll get right at it. We're going to start with Dynasty 1. So I'm just going to share my screen here and we'll get right into it here. All right, so here we are, Dynasty 1. North American division. You can see this is what I have for predictions. I'm a little bit worried about my prediction now, though. I got myself going 10-3. I think that's changed a bit with Higgins and Tyson going down. There's no doubt about it. I do like the fact that I got Caleb Williams, Bijan Robinson, Bowers for years to come. I mean, that's a solid foundation. There's no doubt about it. A couple things I don't like is I got no cupboard left, and my IDP strength I think is a little bit more on the weaker side, or at least mediocre or right in the middle compared to the rest of the league. Second, I got Golden Knights and Milan. What do I like about Milan's team? Well, Lamar and Dak. I like that. I like the exact same thing last year, but these are two guys that are generally going to put up a fair amount of points. I also like your young wide receiver core you got going on. Jameson Williams, Ted McMillan for years to come. The one thing I don't like about your team, Milan, is the running back situation. Jacobs, Monangai, Ollie Gordon. That could be a bit of a problem, I feel, just because it is one of the more weaker running back rooms in the league. Dirk, you're next. Memphis Devil Dogs. You can see 7-6. I told you weren't going to be happy with the record, but you very well could end up getting better here. Again, the injuries to my team. I'm sure you love seeing it, and I know you can't wait for our matchup. What do I like about your team? Well, really, the lineup overall I think is pretty good. You got strength and depth in pretty much every position. The running back room is good. Janty, obviously going to have him for years to come. Brees, I do like that. And then even your wide receiver room, I mean, A.J. Brown, McLaurin. And then you got lots of picks for next year, too. So you're also setting yourself up for, I guess you could say, prolonged success. Unlike my team where the cupboard is empty, you got some picks there next year. That's definitely going to help my first 2 seconds. So we'll see how that pans out for you. The only thing I don't like about your team, I think the linebacking room is a little bit weak. And I think Willis as a second quarterback could be a concern. I've been one of those guys that I think Willis isn't going to be that great. And then lastly, you can see Josh Silver Bullets. So I'm going to throw it out there. There's a couple of people that I have as early candidates for the Hugh Jackson Award. Josh is one of them. Remember, it is your combined performance across the entire format. So if you're in a tiered league as well as Dynasty, though, that's going to factor into you potentially winning or having the prestigious honor of winning the Hugh Jackson Award, which is probably something you don't want to have. But I got you going 0-13. I do like the fact that you got Coleman, Fannin, Amika. These are going to be guys that hopefully can build that dynasty for you. What I don't like about your team is pretty much almost everything. You got no QB, no nothing, really. I'm just going to be honest. I am going to bring up here, so last year in this division, I predicted Knights to win it last year, 10-3. He actually went 9-5 and did win the division, so I was right there. Memphis, I had going 6-7. I was pretty much bang on. He went 7-7. Myself, I had going 5-8. I was pretty much bang on. I went 5-9. And Silver Bullets, I had going 4-9. And last year he went 5-9. So pretty much bang on with the predictions in the North American division. Next up, we got the Canadian division. And again, when I look at last year, just talking about that, I had Adrian and the age crew winning the division last year. I had him going 9-4, and he actually went 10-4. So it's pretty much bang on there. I had Mother Tucker going 8-5. Unfortunately, he didn't show that last year. He actually ended up 6-8. Had Green Lightning going 6-7. He went 5-9, and then I had Cowichan and Chicken Turtles going 5-8. Somehow you went 8-6. You can see my predictions this year are pretty much the same as last year. First, second, third, fourth, the same teams, except I got Age Crew going 10-3 here before Flex, Mother Tucker 9-4, and then of course Lucas and Orion at 5-8. Age, what do I like about your team? Just like I said last year, Mahomes and Herbert, similar to Milan with Lamar and Dak. I just think there's a lot of strength there. You got strength throughout the lineup, and your IDPs are definitely solid. The one thing that I could say maybe I don't like about your team is it is aging out a bit, which obviously in Dynasty can become more of a long term concern. Mother Tucker, a couple things I like about your team. You got some talent to build around. Guys like Puka are definitely going to help. You also got picks for next year, too, which is obviously going to help in the rebuilding. 2 1s, 2 2s. What I don't like about your team is some players are aging. Guys like Saquon, Stafford, obviously, the tight end room. So those are things that as you're rebuilding with these picks, those might be areas you want to look at. Green Lightning, couple things I like about your team. Gibbs, obviously. Devontae Smith having a bigger role this year. Lad McConkey, I think, is going to have a bigger role this year, too, compared to last year. What I don't like about your team is your quarterback strategy from last year, right? I think you went Cam Ward, Shadir Sanders. Both those guys are not looking like they're going to be very good pieces, in all honesty. Kalichin, what do I like about your team? Elman Raw, the fact that you tried to get a second quarterback with Mendoza, I think you gave up a lot for him. We'll have to see if that's the case. What I don't like about your team is the fact of who is going to be, your second quarterback, because I think Mendoza is going to be on the bench. You have Baker, who's going through a contract dispute with Tampa Bay. So the offseason trade again, I thought maybe you paid a bit too much. And then guys like CMAC are definitely aging and could have an effect on how your team will perform. There's no doubt about it. Next up, we got the American division here, and looking at it, I got no more. I mean, no more. I mean, what you did last year, making the trades to make your team what it is. Again, the fact that you lost in the playoffs, I think, had to be a huge disappointment, right? Obviously, it was. Your team went undefeated, right? And again, it just goes to show you anything can happen, right? Like a team, you blew everyone away in terms of points for last year, and yet here you didn't get anywhere in the playoffs, right? Forever rebuild, Justin. I don't think you're forever rebuilding. I think you've done an excellent job here in Dynasty. 8-5 is where I got you going. You're turning things around, no doubt about it. Shep and Killer Sheep, I got you going 7-6 this year, third in the division. And then Ryan and Deuce Bombers, let's face it, we've seen what he's done here in the offseason. 1-12 is where I got him. Full reboot, it looks like, for Ryan. Just getting into my notes here about what I like about your team. So first off, last year I had Killer Sheep winning the division at 7-6. This was before No More made all those trades. I will say that Shep ended up 6-8, so I was pretty close there. I had Deuce going 6-7 last year. He went 3-11. Obviously, tough start to Dynasty 1 for Deuce. Full rebuild now. I had No More going 5-8. Obviously, he made the trades, went 14-0. Very successful regular season. And then Forever Rebuild, I had going 4-9. He went 5-9. So that was pretty much bang on. No More, obviously, I love about your team the triple stack of wide receiver. You got Chase, Lamb Neighbors. You got Trey McBride. You got Judkins. Kenneth Walker, I think, is going to have a monster year. I think he's going to be a fantasy winner this year. What I don't like about your team, like we just talked about Adrian and Milan with their two quarterbacks. You have Bryce Young, Daniel Jones, two small markets, two guys that I just don't have a lot of faith in, to be perfectly honest with you. Forever rebuild. What I like about your team: Burrow, JSN, Parker, Washington, Warren, Likely, great tight end room. You have a lot of good pieces on offense. One of the things I don't like, you don't have a team defense right now, at least from what I could see on the lineup. And the IDPs are definitely a bit weaker than some of the contending teams. And I think that's going to be your weakness, likely heading into this year or having any type of playoff success. Shep, I like Chase Brown for you. Goff and Daniels, the two of the better quarterbacks. Again, comparing to say no more in the division. A couple things I don't like though is just your overall lineup strength versus the contenders. I just don't think you'd have quite the horses that some of the other teams that are really going to compete for the title have. Very well could be wrong, but I do think that a healthy Daniels is definitely going to have to be key for you this year. And then Deuce, what I like about your team, I mean Drake London, I do love him as a receiver. It's just he's got no quarterback. Jonathan Brooks, and Shock at quarterback. So young quarterbacks, maybe to build off of all your picks that you obviously have coming over the next few years. What I don't like about your team is a lot. I do think that your lineup is the second worst in the league, next to Silver Bullets. All right, the last division here for Dynasty One, and I always find these international divisions to be quite competitive. I got Klenji and Sabatica, two brothers here, going 8-5, fighting for this division this year. We know Klenji was the first champion here in the new reboot of Dynasty One, and congrats, Vlad, as you are the defending champion. And I obviously having you doing well here again, and hopefully having a chance to defend that title. I got Eric and Swahino at 7-6, Finn at 1-12. Some people might be surprised by this one. Um, I think sometimes I don't know how to call Finn's team at times. I find you're probably one of the tougher teams to kind of pin down because I always do find that sometimes you have players that I'm looking for too. So you definitely know what you're doing. Last year I had Klenji going 9-4. He went 8-6, so pretty close. I had Swahino going 8-5. He went 6-8. Had Finn going 6-7, went 8-6, and then Sabatica 6-7, and he ended up going 7-7. So pretty much bang on there. Klenji, I really like Achan, Henry, Pickens, Evans. Adding Arvell Reese to the D in the draft, I think is just you can't ignore the IDP side of things. And in Dynasty, we don't have all the picks like we do in the tiered format to rebuild our defense, right? So I like the fact in Dynasty we only have 5 rounds to really rebuild that defense. I don't like, I think tight ends could still be a bit of a concern. Ferguson, I think, is good. Gesicki, I'm not quite sure if he's going to have that primary role in Cincy. Time will tell. Sabatica, what I like about your team, Josh Allen with James Cook, the double stack, I guess you can say there. I think that's pretty good for you. Rashee Rice, Loveland, I think is going to do really well. I don't like Tua and or A-Rod as your second quarterback option. I think they're both bums. And I also think Ricky Pearsall is a huge bust as well. Swahino, love Hampton and Mitchell as a combined effort in that Chargers running back room. Jay Jettas with Collins, great, double wide receiver strat there. I think Pitts is going to have a huge year. Stefanski loves to go to his tight end. Also like, Belly, Conception as well. Mike Washington, I think these are all pretty good picks. Sweeney always do pretty good at picking rookies. What I don't like is Love and Penix as your quarterbacks. And I find that is a huge weakness to me in Dynasty. Well, in all fantasy, I think quarterback is still the most important position. I don't care what anyone says. Of course, running backs can be a premium, tight ends, etc. But I still think quarterback is the most important position. And then Finn, how do I go have you going 1-12 after such a decent year last year? I think you got strong wide receivers for the most part. Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Dunze. young. Hopefully they can produce. Purdy and Stroud, I think, are decent quarterbacks to have. Probably put you in the top half of the league in terms of the two quarterbacks there. What I don't like is running backs are all somewhat part time, right? When I look at your starters, Todd J. Spears, Dylan Sampson, Tank Bigsby, these are your top three. And I think they're all part time running backs. And I think that could be potentially a bit of a concern for you, but only time will tell. I hope you enjoyed this Dynasty preview here. I know I haven't put down who I think is going to be champion quite yet. Honestly, I just had a too tough of a time calling the champion. I wanted to give everyone their predicted records, and yeah, I would love to hear your feedback on whether or not you think I got it right. Hey everyone, so now the newest league to the LOC family and format. We got LOC Dynasty 2. Really happy to kick this Dynasty 2 off. Lots of really great new owners, such as Randy and Too Drunk to Punt here in this North American division. And Too Drunk to Punt, Randy is a guy that I've enjoyed talking to since you've joined the format. You're a true football fan, and I think a great fit for the LOC. And I got you going 8-5 and winning this division. I find this division to be one of the weaker in the league in Dynasty 2. It's really two weak divisions, two strong divisions. I'm going to be honest. I got 12th man in Vancouver Islanders going 5-8. Jake and Brian. Jake, obviously you missed the draft, right? When you got the shitty scenario that you got in terms of picks, and the fact that you missed the draft was a huge mistake. I'm just throwing that out there. And then Bruce, hate to say it, but just like with Josh, I think you're an early candidate for the Hugh Jackson and potentially our first repeat winner. I got you going 4-9 here in Dynasty 2. And we'll have to wait till the tier 3 to see why I have you there. But yeah, I don't have a lot of success for you this year. I did a poll there. I said who had the best team in the North American division. There was 13 votes. 5 went too drunk. 4 went with Bruce and Brian. I wonder if that's changed for a number of people. But what I do like about Too Drunk's team, Saquon, Tutin, I think those are solid running backs. Neighbors. You got Zay, Addison. You also got Tolbert, Coleman, Kraft, Ferguson. I think it's just a great balanced lineup, to be perfectly honest with you. You got Daniels and Daniel Jones at quarterback, so we'll have to see how those guys produce. What I don't like about the team, Chanel, we'll have to see what kind of role he has at linebacker. I do think that your IDPs are a little bit weaker compared to maybe some of the contending teams that could be out there. 12th man, what I like about your team, Burrow, Kenneth Walker, I think is going to be one of the guys that you want in fantasy this year. I think he's going to be one of the fantasy players of the year. I do like Scadabo, Algier. You got Sonny Styles as well at linebacker. So some things to build off of there. What I don't like about your team, Myers, Worthy, London, I think is going to have a down year, even though I do love him as a wide receiver. I think the IDPs are definitely average compared to other teams, especially your flex. Ayuk, why do you have this guy? Right? I don't think this guy's ever going to play another snap. Could be wrong, but I just don't see it. Um, Jake, what I like about your team, Judkins, Loveland, and Pitts, good tight end room. Garrett, your IDPs are actually decent compared to the rest of the league. A couple things I don't like, the fact that you weren't there during draft day. Bryce Young, Emmanuel Wilson is your RB3. You're not going to go anywhere if Emmanuel Wilson's your RB3. Your overall offensive lineup strength is just not there. Okay. And then for you, Bruce, yeah, Drake May, Andrews, and Kittle, the old tight ends for this year. But what's the plan moving forward? A couple of maybe decent depth options, Booty and Isaiah Williams. What I don't like about your team, you got a couple of Green Bay wide receivers, Watson and Reed, maybe even Dobbs. I guess you just like Green Bay players. I know Dobbs obviously on New England now, but I just kind of thought it was funny. I don't like your linebacking room as well. I think that's a problem. And also, Jacoby Brissett is your second quarterback. I think is going to be a problem. So I see it being a down year for you for sure. It's just a matter of how down. Next up, we got the Canadian division, and I do have myself winning this division at 11-2. I got Ramrods and Green Lightning coming in at 7-6, and then Fighting Geese at 5-8. I think it's a very strong division. Out of these records, if there is one team that I think might end up being a bit better, it could be Fighting Geese. Could be wrong. The league said Green and Geese had the best team at 3 votes each. Myself and Ramrods got 1 vote each on winning the division. Why I like my team, let's face it, I did make some trades, right? But I did draft Caleb Williams. I drafted my running backs, so I have a lot of good running back strength. I like a lot about my team. I'm not gonna lie. A couple things I don't like about the team: the DL room I think could be better. The DB room could be a better, and then of course the lack of picks. But the one thing I will say is I still have my first round picks, which I think is going to be obviously important and vital. Looking at Ramrods, a couple things I like: Kyron, Swift, Puka, AJ Brown. You got Hertz and Dak. Debo signed, which is working out in your favor. Decent linebacking room, too, with Sherwood, Franklin. You got Queen there. So decent for sure. What I dislike about the team is the tight end room. Schultz and Parkinson. I just don't think there's a future there. And it's lemon a lemon, right? Like that's we've seen he hasn't even been in the off-season program, at least as of this today is this video. Green Lightning, what I like about your team, I like the quarterback story. Herbert and T-Law, 2 young names that, are still ascending. Justin Jefferson, Rice, Garrett Wilson, great wide receiver room. The linebacking room is solid. Stribling, this guy could end up being quite good, right? So just good offensive depth all throughout, I find, in your lineup. Couple things I don't like. The DB room, I think, is a bit mediocre compared to the rest of the league. But I do like a lot on your team, no doubt about it. And then for you, Geese, what I like, some solid wide receivers for sure. You got 6 guys there that literally could produce each week. You also have a solid linebacking room. Actually have all your picks. Your DL room is actually really good after that trade with original Camille. What I dislike about your team is your quarterback strength, Shuck and Tua, and I think you have Deshaun Watson as well. That's a pathetic room, and I do grade pretty heavily on quarterbacks, especially in Dynasty. And then Caleb Johnson. I think this guy is just a bust. Probably could move on, but who knows, right? Could be wrong. But anyways, I find this division can be strong, and I think it honestly could go either way. I just find right now maybe I do have potentially the strongest lineup. All right, next up, we're going to go to the American division, another division that I think is quite strong. Soft tissue issues got the benefit of some good draft pick scenarios based on the lottery. I got you going 10-3. I got Kyle and throwbacks going 9-4. Kurt and Danny going 7-6. So you can see I have every team in the American division having a winning record. And it's going to be exciting to watch your division this year. If there's one team that I think could end up ending up way better than my predicted record here, it could be Kurt and Constant Rebuild. As the offseason program has gone on, Kurt, I think that you've done an excellent job with your draft picks. It's honestly, I love the 4 people that are here in this division. I honestly think that you guys have been great new owners to add to the LOC. And I just want to say thank you for being here. Looking at when we did the poll, there was 3 votes for soft tissue issues being the best team. Norris and throwbacks had 2, and Constant Rebuild only 1. A couple things I like about soft tissue issues: Josh Allen, Stafford. That's a very strong quarterback room. Last year's MVP, and then Josh Allen, of course. I love Fannin, of course, being a Browns fan. I don't think there's any real weak spots at all on your offense. The IDPs are solid. The only thing that I would say I dislike about your team is you got no first next year and Jordan Tyson's injury, right? I guess the injury bust label actually came to fruition for Tyson, at least early on, right? I mean, I guess I can't call him a bust yet, but it's a inauspicious start. Let's just put it that way. Kyle and throwbacks, dude. Thank you so much for being an ambassador here for the LOC. I mean, sometimes you complain, but the fact that you brought in some really great owners, and it's honestly I love having you in the league. So, a couple things I like about your team: Gibbs, your running back room just got better. Devontae Smith with Chase. McBride, solid offense. I thought the Sutton trade was a good trade for you to get that other offensive piece, especially since it sounds like Kamara got hurt for you there. So that could be one of the things that helps your flex, anyways. What I don't like about your team is the lack of picks. You got no firsts in the next 3 years, and Stroud and Willis. I just don't think those are two quarterbacks that I would think is going to be a championship formula, but very well could be, right? Again, they both could be that mobile quarterback and put up huge points. So, again, anything can happen. Constant rebuild. What I like about your team, CMAC, Bucky, Montgomery. You got Burden and Amika with CD, Bowers, Caleb Douglas, and Jacoby Lane as draft picks. Just again, your team's got better throughout the offseason format. I think the biggest area of concern for you, I know Gino had a good preseason game here recently, but I still think Cousins and Gino being on two weaker teams is going to be the biggest area of concern for you. And I grade, again, pretty strict on quarterbacks, and it's your biggest weakness. And it could be, part of the reason why things don't work out for you. Uh, Danny, North Code, I know you're not as talkative as the other guys here, but you did get Jeremiah Love, obviously. You got a solid offense, likely Pickens. Dart and Mahomes, I think, are great quarterbacks to have. I even like some of like your IDP rookies on Taxi, like Jake Golday has just been lighting it up in the offseason. I think the IDPs are a bit of a concern though, and why do you even have a guy like JJ McCarthy on your team? I think it's a waste of space. All right, our last division here, and this is the other weak division in Dynasty 2. I got it's American Division 2 here. I got Dan winning at 7-6 for Fade to Black. Or maybe winning. Could be a flex matchup with Ian and Wicked Dumpster Fire at 7-6. Remember, Flex Week it brings down the most important matchups. And if these two teams were 7-6, then they would obviously meet for the division likely. I got Bree and Let's Get Busy at 5-8. Not doing so great. I got Valvinus there for you, Bree, and then Caitlin in it to lose it at 2-11. So interesting to see here. We got 3 women in Dynasty 2, and don't have the women doing so well in their first year. Best record being 5-8. When I did the poll here on who people thought had the best team, Dumpster Fire, back when he was called Joe Pacu, got 4 votes. In it to lose it got 3. Must have been before you made all those trades. And then Fade to Black with 2. I mean, it's a weaker division, but it should be fun to watch, and I think there could be potential for some upsets. Dan, what I like about your team, Chase Brown, Derrick Henry, a couple of good, great running backs there. DJ Moore, Mike Evans, even though Mike Evans is getting old. Lamar, Fred Warner as leaders on your team. If we ever had a locker room, those would be 2 guys that would obviously be leaders for your team. What I don't like, Tyquan Thornton is WR3. Is that legit? Like that's pretty weak. And then IDPs are definitely middle of the road for the rest of the league. Ian, thank you so much for taking over the team. Joe Pacu, wish him the best, but he obviously wasn't engaged. I hope you can be engaged, just like your brother Dirk and your dad Bruce, and obviously Bree as part of your family as well. I think Goff and Kyler are not terrible, so I'll say I like that about your team. JSN obviously is going to be an anchor for your team for years to come. I like the Washington draft pick, obviously. Cassius Howell at IDP, I think even. One couple things I don't like though. The tight end room is a bit weaker, I feel. Okonkwo and Gunnar Helm. We'll have to see. And then obviously it was an auto draft for the most part. You weren't here. I think Joe Paku might have got made 2 picks, right? So, but again, I appreciate you taking over this team, and I think there's lots to build off of. So it's not like you inherited a dumpster fire, so to speak. And then let's get busy and Bree. Maybe Ty Simpson is your quarterback future might work out. Cook and Jonathan Brooks. We'll see if he has a big role this year. 2 firsts next year. I like that for you. What I don't like about your team is Calvin Ridley as a starting receiver. I think you got weak flex. Your linebacking room is more boom or bust, and then Cam Ward and Aaron Rodgers. Not the greatest quarterback room to build. I just think Cam Ward just doesn't look the part yet, and Aaron Rodgers, of course, is in his last year. And then in it to lose it. What I like about your team, Bijan Robinson, obviously, Lad McConkey, guys to build off of. Maybe even Elijah Arroyo. All the picks next year, so your full reboot. You can make the team the way you want it to be. What I dislike about your team, though, is you definitely have a weaker roster, if not the worst in the league. And that's why I got you going 2-11. Anyways, folks, I know I haven't picked the champion here for Dynasty 2 either. I just find it too tough to call. I'm going to be honest with you. I just had a show last night as well, so I'm a little bit tired and never got to that point. But hopefully you guys see the predicted record, and I'd love to hear your feedback. And thanks for being a part of this league. All right. So here we are next up for the first time ever. I'm going to do predicted records for Tier 3. And as we get into the tiered format here, looking at the Canadian division here, of course, we don't have any last year's references to look at what the predicted records are. So this, again, is all brand new. I had a great year last year, lost in the final. Have myself doing really well again this year. Very tough division here in the Canadian division, no doubt about it. But I got myself going 10-3. Aaron and Eda Bag and Nick at 8-5, and then Beckett and Dylan squeezing in at 7-6. There's a few things I like about your teams. Obviously, for myself, I like everything. Okay, I just don't see many weaknesses. Maybe loop at kicker is all I had. For you, Aaron, I love Achan, Jay Jettas, Pitts, of course, Styles. Nice add on Ellis recently to improve your IDPs. It shows me you're watching. I dislike maybe your commitment to the Broncos, and I wonder if Nix is the right option over Mahomes at quarterback. So that's what I noted for you. For you, Beckett, I like Chase Brown. You know, Tat and Jamison Williams are nice young receivers to build off of. DJ Moore could have a big year in Buffalo. What I don't like is the Jordan Tyson injury. Obviously, that's not good for you to start the year, and whether or not Chuba is going to be the guy and is Hendo in a 50-50 split, which would hurt the running back room for you. Dylan and Spicy. I like Stafford, Kyron there for the Rams, Burden and Devontae Smith. You got a solid core to build off of. I would say your offensive flex, though, is a bit weaker, and is Krosky Merritt going to be the guy, right? So that's what I got noted there. Hard to say, time will tell. Next up, we get into the American division here, and thanks to Caleb for joining this year. And you've already come in, drafted, and already showed that you're going to be making your way out of Tier 3, I think, fairly quickly. I think you've shown it in Dynasty 2 with your activity, and even in here in Tier 3. Again, the LOCs for active owners and people who know their stuff. And if you know your stuff, you're going to move up the tiers quickly. Again, nothing's perfect. There are some owners in the format that just don't respond as quickly as maybe some of us diehards. But you've definitely are a great addition. I got you going 9-4. Matt, I got you improving in your second year considerably. Cannonballs, you set yourself up with the picks this year. I got you going 9-4. Bree, I still got you staying in Tier 3. Another 5-8 year, another mediocre year. And then Bruce, I mentioned it in the Dynasty 2 preview. Now you can see why I have you as a Hugh Jackson candidate. I got you going 0-13 here in Tier 3. So let's talk about some of the things I like. Well, first off, I will go back to the other division there. I should mention, and I did a poll. 7 people thought Family Discounts will win the division. 2 for Knicks, 1 for Bears. For this division, it's 5 soft tissue, 2 Cannon, 1 Center Tiger. What I like about soft tissue issues, McBride and Laporta, good tight end room, nice decent flex, solid 6 wide receivers that can produce points. Cook, Hampton, T. Law, lots to like about your team. One of the things I dislike, I think the DLs and DBs look a little bit weaker compared to the rest of the contenders potentially. And then Carnell Tate, let's see what this rookie can do. But so far I haven't heard glowing reports. Let's just put it that way. Sorry, that was for cannonballs. That was for cannonballs. For soft tissue issues, what I like is Josh Allen. Same thing, 6 productive wide receivers, solid linebacking room. What I dislike about your team is not a lot, actually. Maybe just DL. So, like I mentioned there, made a mistake there. But yes, cannonballs and then soft tissue issues. Again, I think you have a great team. Center Tiger, what I like about your team, the Love Squad. I only said that because you have 2 loves, Jordan and Jeremiah, but I honestly don't really like Jordan Love. I think you got a solid offensive core, no doubt about it, as long as Jacobs doesn't get suspended. One of the things I dislike about your team, I think the linebackers are weaker. Team defense is a bit weak as well. And then Bruce, for you, I love Kenneth Walker. Again, I'm going to say it all preview. I think he's going to be one of those guys you want to own in fantasy this year. I like Warren, Casey Conception. Seems like he's going to try to at least get involved in that weak Cleveland offense is the issue. What I dislike, though, your wide receivers, overall offense definitely appears to be weak compared to the rest of the league. And I just don't see much success for you, Bruce, at all, based on your schedule. All right, and lastly, we get into the North American division, and when I look at the North American division, we got 3 new owners in this division. We got Lucas, and now here's a guy who inherited a great team. Let's face it, you got lucky, you got some great keepers, a great situation. I got you going 10-3. Caitlin, you're in your second year. I don't see much improvement at 5-8. Ryburn, his first year in the league, Sweetness and Lightning coming in at 5-8, and Randy, you took over the orphan after the auto draft team. I honestly think you probably will end up doing better than 3-10. You've showed already that you're picking up the right waivers, people that are available, and teams that aren't picking up these players are going to fall by the wayside, and you should improve quite quickly. Let's just get into what people said in terms of who they think is going to win this division. 4 went Sweetness and Lightning. 2 went Now Here's a Guy, and 2 Drunk to Punt. So I thought that was kind of interesting. What I like about Now Here's a Guy, Caleb, JT, Henry, Saquon, JSN, CD, Amika, solid lineup throughout. What I dislike is the tight end room, the linebacking room to some degree. But overall, I think you got a very strong team, especially compared to the rest of the division. In it to lose it, what I like about your team is your commitment. Your commitment to the LOC format, Pickens and Neighbors. I think good young wide receivers to build off of. Dart with the double dip there with Neighbors. A couple of things I dislike though. Your running back strength. Tracy is your RB3. I think is a concern. Alec Pierce, is he hurt? How long is he going to be out for? As well as your linebacking strength. Sweetness and Lightning, a couple things I like about your team. C-Mac, obviously. You got Brees, Almond Raw. Definitely a decent offense for sure. What I dislike about your team is the linebacking strength, and your bench is mostly rookies, which it can be okay, but sometimes it takes rookies a bit to get going. But, of course, those guys could be future keepers for you, so who knows. And then, Randy, your team, I love the fact that you took over this team. You got a solid core to build off of, obviously, with Puka, Lamar, Drake London there, Chase, A.J. Brown. What I dislike about the team is the fact that you didn't get to draft it. That's the only thing I dislike, because I think just like Caleb and soft tissue issues, if you had a chance to draft this team, you'd be in a much better scenario. All right, folks. Now we move on over to Tier 2, and very excited to see what we got in store for Tier 2. We're going to start here in the Canadian division. And I got myself going 11-2. I made the final last year, of course, lost to Bishop Sycamore, who moved up to Tier 1, but definitely have a strong year for myself again. I have a strong year for Jake again, going 8-5 for Sandusky Sandmen. I got Orion going 7-6 with the Echidnas, and Jordan McLovin at 5-8. Another tough year for Jonathan. According to the polls here, what do we have? We had 8 balls, 7 votes. McLovin it surprisingly with 3, and then Jake with 1. What I like about my team, the running back strength, no doubt about it. Jay Jettas, I'm also a big fan of. One of the things I kind of dislike, though, is the quarterback room. I don't think Kyler and Gino are going to be the guys that are going to really get it done, but I'm hoping they're going to be good enough. Jake, what I love about your team, fact that you got Dak, you do have a good quarterback, Derrick Henry, DJ Moore, Fannin. The only thing I did say I dislike about maybe your team is whether or not Alec Pierce is going to be a bit of an injury bust this year. Van Isle Kid does. I love the fact that you got Kenneth Walker, JT. I think that's pretty nice flex as well in your offense. The linebacking room, other than Campbell, I think is looking probably something that I would dislike. Ricky Parasol as well. And then drafting a second quarterback in round 3. I couldn't get that one. Why the hell did you go Stafford when you already had Dart? But I thought you could have got another offensive playmaker there, but instead you decided to go with the quarterback. Jonathan, what I like about your team, Josh Allen, the running back room isn't terrible. Jacoby Lane is a draft pick. What I potentially dislike is your IDPs on the same team. So when the bye week comes, that's going to be a concern. And then there's only so many tackles to be had with players on the same team. So that's one way to look at it. Now, whether or not Kenyon Sadiq's going to be healthy, right? So that could be maybe a potentially wasted pick because of that. So we'll just have to wait and see. But again, I see you struggling again this year. We move into the North American division now, and according to the votes, we had Career Criminal Nohawk Tua with 3, and then Dumpster Fire and Angry Unicorns with 1. You can see here I got Career Criminal and Angry Unicorns. Oddly enough, both named Justin. Going 9-4. Angry Unicorns took the grace. I think he's going to regret it. By going 9, again, by going 9-4, and potentially could have won the division money, got the money back anyways. No Hawk 2, I got you finally really showing a strong, promising year at 8-5. And then Ian, I don't have you doing well at all. I got you at 2-11. What I like about Career Criminal, Lamar, Judkins, Rasheed, solid D, great DBs, by the way. Derwin James, Caleb Downs. I love the DB room. Tight end room's a bit weaker, though. I would say that. And then it just has to be interesting to see if Bill and RJ Harvey, don't pan out at running back. What is that going to look like for you? It could be a disaster. Angry Unicorns, you got the fortunate enough to get a solid core that you acquired when you moved up. Bijan, Chase, JSN, Puka, you got good bench depth too. The one thing I do dislike though is your IDPs. I just get a general sense of some uncertainty with some of your IDPs. No Hawk 2, I love Herbert, Waddle, Jameson Williams, great bench. Gonna be your best year, in my opinion. A couple things I dislike, though, is Guy hurt. The linebackers could definitely be better, but, I think overall you got a great lineup. And then for you, Ian, I like Bowers. I like Saquon and Mason. Your top 3 wide receivers, though, definitely seem to be a bit weaker compared to the rest of the league. Your offensive flex is weaker, and your bench depth is weak, too. So I don't see a lot of promise there for you this year. The year you left and retired briefly, you were on your way to Tier 1. I don't see you anywhere close to going to Tier 1 this year. Getting into the American division now, Dan, good to see you finally making your way to, I think, a promising year. Got you going 10-3. Wes, last year's Tier 3 champion, I got 6-7. Dirk and Memphis Mafia and Biscuits and Rabies at 4 and 9. Dirk, I know you kind of went in all in last year, which I think has prevented you from putting a good lineup together this year. The votes had DNA with 4, Treasures and Memphis with 2 of winning the division. What I like about Dan, your team, AJ Brown, C-Mac, solid IDPs, the best I've ever seen you do there. And I think this is definitely going to be your best year yet. What I do dislike is maybe the WR2 being Khalil Shakur. I think your team maybe could have been a bit better in terms of that, like compared to other teams' WR2s. National Treasures, I like CD, McBride. You got good linebackers. What I dislike is your offensive flex in 2 spots except Veli. Veli's looks like he's gonna pan out for you now because of the injury to Tyson, but it's definitely still think you're weak at 2 spots in your offensive flex. Dirk, what I like about your team, I think you got a good running back room. 2 rookies who might do well in Hurst and Caleb Douglas. What I don't like about your team is your IDPs are definitely on the weaker side, I feel, and your bench depth is a concern to me. And then lastly, Biscuits and Rabies. You just can't seem to find a way to have success in Tier 2, but I do like Caleb, Amon Ra, Pitts, even Chris Rodriguez, I think is going to have a role. I dislike your running back room. I think it's a bit weaker compared to the rest of the league, and your bench depth is a bit of a concern as well. All right, and then now the last division, American Division 2. And this year I actually have Morning Chuba going 9-4. Justin found a way with some extra picks, and I think you got a great team. Don't count out Rob Doe and Scottish Highlanders at 7-6, went undefeated in the regular season last year. I think you have a good lineup as well. Sorry I didn't update this, but next door neighbor's name is Amber. I apologize. I forgot to edit this before I started recording, so my bad. And then Kyle, I got you going 2-11. You've made it up to Tier 2 as the last qualifier, but I don't see good things for you. The votes had Scottish Highlanders winning the division by 5 votes, Chuba 2, Neighbors 1. What I like about Justin's team, the running back room, your young wide receiver talent, you got Tet and Luther Burden. The offensive flex is also very strong, but I don't like the fact that you don't have a kicker and your team defense is weak. That's where I dislike your team. Scottish Highlanders, again, young wide receiver room to build off of. Ladd, Amika, Zay. You got good offensive flex, good linebackers for sure. Baker's the only quarterback is a bit of a concern for me, and running back bench depth is a concern. For you, Amber, I do like the fact that it does look like the Dowdle trade will pay off. Tyrone Tracy looks like he's going to end up being a bum now with that missed block. And then I do like Joe Burrow. I dislike your team defense, your linebacking room, your bench depth, and 2 running backs on the same team. No, Tyler Warren and Rico Dowdle. I couldn't figure that one out. And then throwbacks, I like the fact that you have Gibbs. The challenge ahead here for you to get better. You got decent linebackers for sure, but what I don't like about your team, obviously, is that Higgins injury and the offensive flex potentially being a bit of a weakness for you. All right, folks. So we've made it to the last tier here. Tier 1, the Mecca, the League of Champions. And we're starting in the American Division. And tough division this year. I think it's going to be close. I'm going with Banjo Blitz and Shep at 9-4 to win the division. Bishop Sycamore and Cody at 7-6. New owner, Tier 2 champ from last year. Stewart at 6-7, no more at 6-7, no more. I think he did a great job with the lack of picks. And Ryan and Deuce Bombers, who had a severe lack of picks. I think you did pretty decent considering, and I got you going 5-8. If I look at last year, I said Banjo would finish 6-7. He finished 6-8. No more, I said would finish 6-7. He finished 10-4. Sky Blue, I said 7-6. He finished 4-10. Deuce 8-5. He finished 8-6, so pretty much bang on. And of course, Bishop Sycamore was last year's Tier 2 champion. A couple things I like. Well, first off, no more. We'll start with you at 6-7 here. I like all your players really, basically having great off seasons. When I look at who you drafted, you did a great job there, and I think you have great offensive flex compared to the rest of the league, considering your lack of picks as well. What I do dislike Kyler as quarterback, but there's also Jones there as well. I guess you're relying a lot on Daniel Jones this year. Same in Dynasty One. I don't necessarily like your bench depth or your DL room. Sky Blue. One of the things I like about your team, tight end room, Tyler Warren, Andrew Schultz. I think that's one of the more better tight end rooms in the league. I think you will compete with a decent roster for sure. One thing I dislike though, Bateman. Is he going to go to jail? I mean, it's tough having a guy like him. We just heard the news. IDPs, I think, are a bit iffy too. And your running back room is a bit May as well. RJ Harvey, I know you kept him. We'll have to see what kind of role he's going to have. Banjo, I really like your wide receiver room. CD, Neighbors, Devontae Smith, the team you inherited, of course. Decent flex. I think Keenan Allen also works out for you too, which is great. I also love your DL room. I dislike your tight end room, and I also dislike your running back room outside Kyron, really, for the most part. Deuce, I like what you did, considering obviously the lack of picks, and your running back room is obviously very strong. One of the better running back rooms in the league. I think your wide receiver room's a bit weaker compared to everybody else, though, as well as your defensive flex is weaker. I think your DL room is weak, and your bench depth is a concern as well. So definitely have some areas there where you could be in for some challenges. And then Bishop Sycamore, I like the fact that your running back room is one of the best in the league. You got Gibbs, you got Cook, you got Jeremiah Love, you got Caleb Williams as hopefully a star quarterback for years to come. I do dislike basically your IDPs in general, your DL room, your linebacking room. In Tier 1, IDPs win championships. And right now, I think your IDPs are more on the weaker side. And that's why, Sleepers probably got you projected to be a bit better than 7-6, but that's where I have you. All right, moving on to the red and white division. I got the 12th man and Brian here at 11-2, myself and Susie at 6-7. Fighting Bullets 3-10, and I got Ramrods going 0-13, and obviously an ideal drop candidate this year for Hayden and Ramrods. Last year I said Ramrods would go 6-7. You went 5-9. Geese, I said 5-8. She went 4-10. I said I would go 8-5 last year. I went 10-4. I said 12th man would also do 11-2 last year. He went 8-6, and of course Silver Bullets is our second Tier 2 qualifier. Starting with myself, I like the fact that Joe Burrow, I think, is a game winner some weeks. The running back room, I think, is fairly decent, and I like my bench depth. A lot of WR3s on a lot of teams. I know they're not going to put up huge points, but at least they'll put up some, hopefully. I do dislike my wide receiver room. I think Drake London could struggle this year. Alec Pierce, the injury is looking bad. And then my offensive flex is a bit on the weaker side, for sure. Ramrods, what do I like about your team? Not much of anything, to be honest. You got some decent offensive players, but really, I don't like really anything on your team. I dislike almost everything, including your IDPs. So it's going to be a challenge for you. I don't know what happened. I know you had a lack of picks, and you might be buying to survive again this year, and that might not even help you. Geese, I like the running back room. Seems to be getting better over time. Alvin Kamara's injury helps ETN. I like Dak. I like Fannin. One of the things I don't like, though, is your linebacker room. Trevin Wallace very well could lose the job, I heard. And then Marvin Harrison Jr., this is your third year having him. Will he do anything for you this year? Silver Bullets, I like your wide receiver depth. You got some really good wide receivers off me. Matthew Golden, Parker Washington for next to nothing. Also like your young running backs. You drafted a couple rookie running backs, which I think, again, for you being in a grace year, that was a smart move because those guys could be future keepers. All you got to do is survive, right? And then I dislike your tight end room. Sam Darnold as a starter. I'm just not a big Darnold fan. And then linebacking room, I think is one of the weaker units as well. 12th man, I love your running back strength. I think Kenneth Walker is going to have a massive year and is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you this year, while your running backs in general I dislike your tight end room. I don't, Royo might have a role. I think you have Ferguson too, might have a role, but Gesicki, we'll have to see what kind of role he has in Cincy with Eric All there now. And then I think the offensive flex is just okay outside Jacobs. So that's where I would say that you have a bit of, or what I dislike about your team. All right, next up, the Maple Leaf division. So remember, almost all season, I was saying how this Maple Leaf division really it appeared to be one of the most competitive divisions, and I think it is, judging by what I have there for obviously each record for each team outside of Billsy Bob's. But last year, just looking at it, I said Mother Tucker would finish 4-9. He finished 6-8. Green Lightning, I said 5-8. He finished 6-8. Bang on. Storm 5-8, 6-8. Bang on. Six, I said 8-5. He finished 8-6. Bang on. And then I said Billsy Bob's 10-3, and he finished 11-3. Bang on with my predictions last year with the Maple Leaf division. Bob's, couple things I like about your team. Obviously, Josh Allen, Jamar Chase, just like last year. The running back room is somewhat decent as well. I think the tight end room is awful, though, one of the worst, and the bench depth is awful offensively, and I think that's going to hurt you some weeks, and I think it's a rebuilding year for you. I think we actually predicted you to be champion last year, just fell short, but I think this is now one of those years after going all in. You're just going to rebuild for next. Green Lightning, I think you got good offensive depth. The wide receiver room is solid. Linebacking room is very strong as well. I like your linebacking room. I think the running back room is very mediocre, though, to be honest. And I also dislike you didn't do predictions. You didn't get any predictions in this year, which is, unfortunate. But I get it. You're busy. Mother Tucker and Kalen, I like what you're doing here. I think it's only your second year now in Tier 1. The trade for Rasheed, I think, was the right move, especially considering what happened to Alec Pierce. You wouldn't want him as a keeper right now. Team is improving over with time, I find, in the offseason as we progress, and you have a nice, well-balanced roster. I love it. What I dislike, not a lot, really. I'll be honest. Every position group, I think, is okay. Maybe your defensive flex is where I think maybe I could say I dislike. Storm, I love your offensive flex. I think you got some of the best offensive flex in the league. A nice balanced roster. I think you did great in the draft, Krista. I dislike your tight end room, though. The running back room is okay. The only problem is all your running backs are in a 50-50 split, right? So that's the only thing I don't like about your team. And then the six, Milan, I love Pitts. I think he's good enough to compete. Just like Sky Blues team. So I think the roster is good enough. Pitts will have a big year because of Stefanski and the tight ends. I dislike Tyrone Tracy. Is he going to be a factor now that he missed that block? It seemed like he kind of fell out of favor pretty quick. You got no true WR1 on your roster, and I think the linebacking room, you got no real inside linebackers, and those are the guys that get the tackles, right, and get you a lot of points. So that's where I think you kind of fall short in your lineup. International division, I like Luka too good for a name. I think his keeper quality strength is unbelievable. Finn and Clengy should be there. I know Clengy's experienced some injuries here recently. Still think he's going to be good enough to compete. You could see last year's champion, Dushan and Sabatica Spartans, I have in very serious trouble. 1-12. The only team I have projected to finish worse is Ramrods and Hayden. Last year I said Sabatica would finish 4-9. He went 10-4 and won the championship. Beat me, obviously. Clengy, I said 6-7. He went 6-8. Suhino, I said 6-7. He went 4-10. Too Good, I said 8-5 last year. He went 4-10. And Finito, I said 8-5. Went 14-0. Fell short in the playoffs, though. Sabatica, what I like about your team is that you're the defending champ. That's about it. I dislike a lot on your team. Emmanuel Wilson is RB3, your tight end room, your offensive flex, your linebacking room, all on the weaker side compared to the rest of the league. Too good for a name. I love Bijan. I love Jay Jettas. I love Amon Rod, McBride. Excellent keeper strength. The only thing I don't like is your offensive flex a little bit outside Caleb Douglas. I think you got two spots there that could use improvement, but still think with the keeper strength that you have, you're in a very good spot. Klenji, I like JSN. Amika, obviously, decent defensive and offensive flex. I find Bowers and Kelsey, old and new in tight end. What I don't like is the injuries to Monagai and Tyson. Obviously, your linebacking room I think could be a bit iffy too, but only time will tell. So Hino, I like Mike Washington. You always seem to find these rookie draft picks that you make, and you always draft rookies. And I think Mike Washington looks electric. If I'm a Janty owner, I'm actually kind of worried. Colson Loveland, who you drafted last year, should be elite this year. The bench depth isn't awful. I dislike Lemon. Again, I've already said it. Could he be a Lemon? Rest of the running back room, I think, is pretty weak, right? J.K. Dobbins, also the injury concerns. Your offensive flex in the DL room, I think, are also on the weaker side, which is why I have you going 3-10. And then Finito, I don't see you going 14-0, but I see another great year from you. Achan, Puka, tight end room is really good. What I dislike about your team, the wide receiver room as a whole is just not as strong as maybe some of the elite teams. And your offensive flex is mostly rookies, which could be a bit of a concern, just based on sometimes they don't contribute right away. I will say we did do some polls for the American division. 7 votes said Banjo. I agree. 4 went Bishop, 2 went Sky Blue, and no more. 1 went Deuce. In the red and white, 12 went 12th man. I also agree with the league. 2 went Whore Business. 1 Ramrods and Bullets. Maple Leaf, I also agree with the league. 10 votes for Green Lightning, 2 for Storm. Everybody else in the division got 1 vote. And then I also agree with the league on the poll for the international. 7 went Too Good, 4 Finn, 3 Swahino, and 2 Klenji. This is going to be an exciting year. I can't wait to see what comes about here in LOC Tier 1. You guys have been around for so long, and it's a very competitive league, and I'm really looking forward to it. All right, so special surprise for you all. I did do playoff predictions, and I'm just leaving it here till the end. Here are my playoff predictions for Dynasty. You already saw what I predicted for the records. I see it going down like this. Age Crew, myself, No More Klenji winning the divisions, getting the division money. I have Age Crew taking on Forever Rebuild in the first round. Myself, Sabatica, No More Mother Tucker, Klenji, and Golden Knights. I have Age Crew and Sabatica getting the upset on me in round 1, and No More and Klenji moving on. I have Age Crew and No More in the final. These 2 teams look like the strongest teams last year. Probably should have been the final. Klenji shocked the world. Can he do it again? I honestly think this is the year where Age Crew delivers and wins the championship. But of course, everyone has to stay healthy, including the quarterbacks. And I think that's where he has the advantage over No More in the final. On the Dynasty 2, I got Dog Pound, Soft Tissue Issues, Too Drunk to Punt, and Fade to Black winning division money. I got myself playing Ramrods first round, Soft Tissue with Green Lightning, Too Drunk with Constant Rebuild, Fade to Black the Throwbacks. So there won't be a division where every team makes the playoffs. I got myself beating Ramrods, Constant Rebuild, beating Too Drunk, the North American Division champ. I got Soft Tissue and Throwbacks moving on. So 3 of the final 4 being in the American Division. I'm sure that'll help pump up their ego a little bit. In the final, I got myself first Soft Tissue, and I'm going to go with myself winning the league. I think the trades that I made were good enough to put me and catapult me to narrowly beat Soft Tissue Issues in what should be an incredible final if it actually happens. Moving on to Tier 3. Of course, in Tier 3, the top 2 teams get a bye. That'll be myself, and now here's a guy. I got Ooh Spicy actually getting the last playoff spot. He would take on Soft Tissue. Cannonballs would take on Eat a Bag of Nicks. I think Eat a Bag of Nicks is doing more on the waiver wire than Cannonballs will all year. So I got him beating him, taking on me in the next round. I got Soft Tissue beating Ooh Spicy, taking on now here's a guy. Just like in Dynasty 2, I have myself versus Caleb in the finals. Wouldn't that be crazy if it is me versus Caleb in 2 finals in the 5 leagues that the LOC owns? In this particular final, where the final escaped me last year, I have myself actually winning this year. In terms of who would be the top two teams making it up, obviously soft tissue, I have making it to tier two next year. And then it would be now here's a guy versus Eat a Bag of Nicks in the next playoff game to determine who would move up. And I'm going to go with Aaron. I think he's committed this year. And those would be the two teams moving up, soft tissue and Eat a Bag of Nicks. Moving on to tier two, I got myself Championship DNA, Morning Chuba, and Angry Unicorns winning the divisions. I would play Rob, Championship DNA versus Jake, Morning Chuba, No Hawk Tua, Angry Unicorns versus Career Criminal. Just like I think we saw, we have seen before in tier two before, and honestly, Bishop Sycamore, nothing against them, but he was one of those guys that upset a bunch of teams in the playoffs, and I see a bunch of upsets happening again this year. Again, I said one team would regret taking the Grace. I think that's Angry Unicorns. I see him moving on to Scottish Highlanders. I see Sandman and No Hawk Tua getting the upsets over the other two teams. I have the final as No Hawk Tua versus Scottish Highlanders, and I'm really rooting for Scottish Highlanders to move up to tier one. I just think he's a tier one owner. He's proved it. I know his team might not be quite as strong as last year because obviously he went 14-0 last year. But I think he does more than No Hawk 2 on the waivers, and that's what gets him the victory and off up to tier one as our lone participant moving up. Last but not least, of course, the Mecca LOC Tier 1. I got 12th Man, Green Lightning, Too Good for a Name, and Banjo Blitz winning their divisions respectively. I got Storm as the last seed, Finito and Clengy also making it from the international division, 3 teams out of the international, and the Mother Tucker also getting in. I got Green Lightning and Storm getting the upset on the 12th Man. I actually just don't trust the 12th Man to stay competitive all year, just like last year he sold, right? And he very well has already hinted towards selling this year. So I just don't trust it. Chris has got great offensive flex, better than Brian, in my opinion, as a whole. And then I see Too Good for a Name taking on Mother Tucker in the next round. I got the final being Green Lightning, Too Good for a Name. It'll be Green Lightning's 4th finals appearance. And I have him losing yet again. I got him being the Buffalo Bills of the LOC, and Too Good for a Name winning his first championship. Anyways, folks, that's your season preview for the year. I'm surprised I was able to get this done. I'm dog tired, I'm not going to lie. But I am happy now that really the next videos are going to be the weekly recaps, which you guys all enjoyed last year based on your feedback. And I have to get up super early in the morning to do those every Tuesday, but it's my pleasure to do it for y'all. And I really just want to wish y'all a lot of fun this year. For the teams that are not responding to trades, you better start responding, please. Again, it's just a respect thing. I know a lot of you are not addicted to this like a lot of some of the other people in the league, like myself. But just have the common courtesy to answer takes a minute to answer on a trade. That's the last message I just want to send. But for the most part, I think the ownership in the LOC this year, I say this every year, but it keeps improving. And I honestly think there probably won't be any open spots next year. That's my hope. And that's what I've always hoped for the LOC, is that the ownership, we're not replacing anyone. No one's retiring. And I honestly think that we could be that league finally this year, and I think it's our 13th year. So anyways, good luck, folks, and thanks for watching.